Okay, so like I said, my that camera conked out for a second. Trump does not care about what y'all think, okay? He does not care. But at the same time, he has to weigh the pros and the cons of offering this man, Sean Combs, the man, a pardon. Let's not even consider Diddy anymore. Let's consider Sean Combs, the person, the man. The whole purpose of targeting a person as big as a Trump or a Diddy or anybody at that level is to destroy their reputation, destroy their credibility, and to bankrupt them. And these people will not only destroy your business empire, they will destroy your reputation, they will try to incarcerate you or will incarcerate you. They will go after your children, they will go after your spouses if you have any. They'll go after the ones most closest to you. They will hit you in every angle of your life, financially, psychologically, in your freedom, trying to take your freedom away, your finances, your family, your faith. They try to destroy all of that when they target you like that. At that level, it's a pretty hard fall for anybody to have to survive. So whenever y'all talk about, oh, he don't deserve no mercy and he deserves to get as much time as possible, believe me, Diddy has taken a colossal fall. I mean, a biblical fall, a biblical downfall. And the reason being is because at one time, Diddy was very proud. He was very prideful. And like they say, pride comes before destruction. But the thing about it is, God has a way of putting you in situations where he will humble you in order to save you. And so I think that's what's happening in Diddy's case, is that he is going through this experience to humble him. And believe me, that time that he has been sitting in that MDC Brooklyn institution, he has been humbled. And when he gets out, he will be humbled even more, because he will not have the same level of fame and followers and notoriety that he once did. Because even if he gets out and he does redeem himself, which I believe he would and he will, when he does finally get out of there, he will redeem himself. Lord willing, God grant it. I believe that he can do very great things, good things, to give back and, just to redeem himself. Look at what Project Pat is doing. Project Pat was the biggest degenerate gangster rapper, out here, rapping about some of the most ignorant, demonic stuff. But when he caught that federal case, his last case, I think he went fed this time. And he did a stretch. He did about 4 years, I believe. And in the feds, they'll ship you all over the country. They could put you in Vermont somewhere, and you from Memphis, to where can't nobody come visit you, or won't come visit you, and they will put you in the middle of nowhere and lose you. And that's what happened. That's what Project Pat, if you hear his testimony, he said, my last stretch when I did that fed time, he said that's what did it. That's what humbled him. That's what broke him. And now look at him. Look what he's doing now. Got out of prison. And, he got out of prison. Is that ICE? Immigration? Look like they got some kids. Immigration. On for sale. Got out of prison. But anyway, Project Pat got out of prison. And now he's going, he's free to do whatever he wants. But he goes, to the prisons and stuff, and he talks and he ministers, and he gets these inmates to give their lives to Christ, and they doing a wonderful work. Once he was released and he got a chance to reach back into that environment to help other people get out of it and redeem themselves and change their lives. And sometimes God have to tear stuff down and reconstruct it. you got to destroy something in order to rebuild it better. And that's what I think is going to happen with Trump. But Trump he's a businessman, and like I said, I said this years ago, I said he's a reasonable man. He's a very reasonable man. Trump is not hard to deal with business-wise, or, as far as with making deals and things like that, he's never been, in my opinion, from what I've studied his life and his business and things like that, he's not a hard person to negotiate with. He knows how to make the art of the deal. He has mastered the art of the deal. And so the thing about it is this: sometimes you got to take politics and business out of things and just kind of make it a personal. You got to make it a personal, spiritual thing. Because if it was you or anybody else that got into the same trouble that P. Diddy got in, and he went through all of this, losing his finances, being separated from his family, his fortune, his followers, his reputation, his health is probably deteriorated. What they said he's his health is deteriorating in there, and it's just a lot of psychological warfare and lawfare and spiritual warfare that's going on in his life right now. If that was you, take yourself out of your own shoes and fit into his shoes. Put yourself in, wear his shoes just for a minute and ask yourself, what would you want Trump to do if it was you? You would want him to give you a commutation and a pardon, or a commutation and a pardon, or something. You would want him to help you too, if you want to be honest about it. Because what Diddy is in there for, and the jury saw all the evidence that we didn't see. They heard and saw everything that we did not see, and they came to the conclusion that those victims had the freedom to leave at any given time. They were not forced, coerced, or threatened in any kind of way. And they said the only thing that they found Diddy guilty of is violating the Mann Act, where he flew in, or escorts, or either he flew out these victims, Jane Doe and Cassie, to have sex with these prostitutes. So he committed interstate travel to engage in prostitution. That's what Diddy was found guilty of. That jury did not see anything about force or human trafficking or anything like that. That's why they said, no, we're not. And then it was, can you have a one-man RICO? So the jury did not go for that. And for the right reason. They didn't go for that. Because if that's the case, Cassie should have been on trial right along with him as his co-defendant. And so should Jane Doe. They should have been right in there, sitting right beside him at trial as his co-defendants. Because there was no RICO. There was no... none of that. The jury did not find that. And most of the general public didn't find that either. The main thing that Sean Combs was convicted of was traveling out of state to commit debauchery, prostitution. Now, prostitution is illegal. So that is the main thing. Had Puffy just stayed in Miami or stayed in New York and had not flown on his plane and hired these escort male prostitutes, there would not have been a federal trial. He would have been issued a citation or given a court date and a fine or something, if he would have got caught, this is his first conviction. He has no other convictions. If he had not went out of town to do what he was doing, to perform these freak-offs with Cassie and Jane, if he got caught, he would have gotten probably a huge fine and maybe some probation, and probably would have been charged with misdemeanor. So this is what the jury found. We're like, nah, we're not gonna send this man. We're not gonna send this man to jail for life. We're not going to make him lose everything he has. Is it immigration? No, No, that's college. That's Rockhurst. What they said, no, we're not going to. The jury said, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to send this man a life and make him lose everything he has and separate him from his family, until he dies over some sex. Some weird, kinky, swinger, debaucherous sex. The jury said, no, we're not going to do that. And that's why they found him guilty of violating the Mann Act, which he was very guilty of. And he was very guilty of domestic violence, too. Let's keep it all the way real. But the statute of limitations ran out on the domestic violence charge, so he couldn't be charged with that. And the thing about this, you got to look at it this with the domestic violence. Cassie had been away from Diddy. What? 2000? I think they broke up in 2018. Cassie had been asking Diddy for money when she broke up and left Diddy for the personal trainer. She had been asking Diddy for money because her and her husband were living with her parents. They had no money. They were broke. So she had been asking Diddy for money. And so after a while, when she saw that Diddy just wasn't going to give her any money, that's when she filed her lawsuit, and that's when the dominoes began to fall. In addition to this whole lawsuit, that Bellagio lawsuit. Not Diageo. I said it wrong. Diageo lawsuit, when he sued that liquor company. That's when the dominoes began to fall. And that's when the man was targeted, and his enemies came after him. They came after him with everything they got. And so, like I said, with the whole pardon thing, I think he should be pardoned. I think his sentence should be commuted with conditions. I said with conditions and the reason being is because we did see Puffy beat a young lady, a defenseless young lady on camera. I don't care if the statute of limitations were out, we did see that. And, there's been a history of domestic violence. So, I do think that, Trump should pardon Diddy or give him a commutation with conditions. And hold him to it. And I just think that, yes, it should cost him something. You shouldn't just be able to walk out of it for free. No. Because you've been able to live and do the things that you were doing for a long time. And, I just think that it should be some conditions with the commutation and a pardon, because that's only fair. I think that would only be fair. And not only that, it would be fair with President Trump. If he pardons Diddy with these conditions that I proposed, it would not only send a stern message, that not only will you go to jail and do time, which Diddy has done, time. He has served jail time and is serving jail time. Not only will you go to jail and do time, but you may not always be able to get a presidential pardon or get paroled or get an out date. So you better think long and hard before you lay hands on another person or, decide to participate in this type of debaucherous sex, deviant sex, which, it ain't, the only thing illegal about it was that he hired and paid the male prostitutes. That was the most illegal thing about it. And Cassie claims that he forced her into these freak-offs. I don't believe he did. I don't believe there was any type of rape or any type of force or anything like that. I believe that they willingly agreed to participate in these orgies because they wanted to please Diddy. They wanted money. They wanted to keep their position in Diddy's life. And so they tolerated. And they put up with his debaucherous, kinky, sexual, swinger lifestyle. They participated in it. Same way I think Ghislaine did. That's why I think Ghislaine, she was an accomplice. And that's what she did with Epstein. She wanted to be around him, keep her position with, in his life. And so she had to be his accomplice in his debaucherous activities. But the thing about it, the difference between Ghislaine and Diddy is that theirs involved underage girls. Diddy's didn't involve minors. These were consenting adults. Like I said, these were consenting adults who agreed to partake in these activities and got financially compensated for it. That was the illegal part. So there's a moral message, a spiritual message behind all of this. It's a message of retribution. It's a message of redemption. It's a message of grace, mercy, and forgiveness. And the thing about it is, people don't seem to understand that God is a God of infinite grace and mercy and forgiveness. And most people want that for themselves, but they don't want to extend that to other people. And that's a very selfish way to think and behave. Because whatever Diddy has done, trust me, God is the one who he has to answer to, and is the one that he will receive the ultimate divine punishment, as well as grace, mercy, and forgiveness from, is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. So, like I said, the ball is in President Trump's court. If he wants to extend grace and mercy to Diddy, why would it bother anybody that he would want to do that? I don't get it. If Diddy can get out and redeem himself, and at the same time do some good and help other people in his situation get help, and then help the victims get help, just traveling all around the country, helping communities in distress, with domestic violence, then why would anybody have a problem with that? I say give him a second chance and let him prove himself. And that's why I said it should be with conditions. So, okay, y'all, St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. I never saw this church. Okay, y'all, so let me go ahead. St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. I just drove by. Wow. Okay. Another coincidence. All right, y'all. Let me go ahead and stop this. And I may be there later on this evening, if not tomorrow sometime, and with a video. But be blessed, y'all. Be safe out here. This is Halloween. They actually said I'll get on that when I do a video. All right, y'all, but be safe, be blessed out here, y'all. Take care, and I will see you all later on. If not tonight, then tomorrow. Lord willing, God grant it. Peace. Oh, before I go, another thing. That's what I wanted to say. All this stuff about all these stories being leaked and stuff, I'm going to say this. If Diddy gets out, and they're saying that Diddy doesn't have the liquid cash, to pay for a partner or whatever. I don't believe that story. But if that is true, the thing about it is that even, with Diddy's whole reputation being ruined and everything like that, there are still a lot of people who would want to hear his side of the story. So, if President Trump was to give Diddy a pardon and a commutation, or a commutation with conditions or whatever, if Diddy does spend a lot of money to get out of this and, make up for his legal bills, he can do that when he gets out, because the first thing I would do is, people want to hear Diddy's side of the story. They want to hear what he has to say if he gets out of prison, if he gets out of jail, and Trump pardons him or commutes his sentence and he gets out. The first thing I would do if I was Diddy is, get a docuseries deal, either with Netflix or one of these networks. Get a docuseries deal or documentary deal on the table to make my money back. Or if you're going to go on a podcast, don't go on no podcast unless you are going to get a cut of the revenue that they get when they get these views. Diddy should go on a podcast if he wants to go the podcast route. Go the Club Shay, shoot for Shay Shay numbers. When he did the interview with Cat Williams, shoot for Shay Shay numbers. Shoot for Joe Rogan. I don't know. Shannon Sharp reputation is kind of in the trash right now, but shoot for big time podcasters where you know you are guaranteed to do numbers. Even do one with Kanye. Do a interview or podcast with Kanye when you get out. That's guaranteed to do numbers. Because Kanye was the only one that showed up. Kanye and Jay Electronica and a few others, G-Dup. There's a few, just a very small few who showed up at Diddy's trial. First thing I would do, don't go on no other podcast that you know ain't gonna bring in no numbers. And you get a deal with them that you get a cut of the revenue that they get based off those views, because it's going to do numbers. It's going to do numbers if you choose the right podcast. I don't know if I'd mess with no Kai Cenat because he's not serious enough. You know, you got to tackle some serious issues. Not no Kai Cenat or nothing that's kind of fluff. I mean, you go somewhere where you know this is going to do numbers, and you can be able to tell your side of the story. And I promise you, people are going to want to hear what Diddy has to say if Trump commutes his sentence or gives him a pardon. They will definitely want to hear what Diddy has to say. Don't give no free interview. That's the way you make your money back. Also, with that other thing that I had mentioned, that I'm not going to disclose that. It's another way he can make his money back. Through music. But all right, let me get off of here. I just wanted to make that clear. That thought had escaped me, but that's the thing that they talking about. Oh, Diddy's broke and he don't have liquid cash and all this other stuff. All Diddy got to do is touch down on the ground, touch down, get out, and Diddy can make his money back. Trust me, he can make his money back hand over fist. First of all, get rid of some of them mansions. You don't need 5 mansions. Get rid of some of those mansions. Unload a lot of that property that is draining your bank accounts. That's for one. You don't need a $60 million mansion. All your kids are grown. You only got one minor child now. You don't need a mansion. I mean, downsize. Get rid of unload a lot of that stuff. But like I said, he get out, he can definitely make his money back. So that wouldn't be a problem. If he could, they tell me, oh, won't nobody touch him. Won't no friends loan the money, won't nobody touch him. Trust me, and Diddy will make that money back if he gets out. He will make that money back because they would definitely, first of all, Diddy is not dumb. Diddy is not, he wasn't no street thug out on the street, not educated or anything like that. Diddy is not dumb by a long shot. He knows how to make money. And I just believe that, he will make his money back. Trust me. If he gets out of jail, he can make that money back. All right, so yeah, that's all I wanted to say. No bootleg podcasters, no free interviews or nothing like that. If Trump commutes Diddy's sentence, it'll actually make Trump, with the proposals that I suggested, it won't make Trump look bad at all. But yeah, Diddy can make his money back. That's the least of his worries. I wouldn't even be worried about how am I gonna make my money back. I don't want to come out broke. I don't care if you come out broke, as long as you come out, because you can make that money back. Period. You can make that money back. He can make that money back. So all right, y'all. It ain't even about money. It's about getting out of there and being back with your family, redeeming yourself, doing some good. Because what the devil meant for evil, God will use for good. And, he can get out, and I think that he can do a lot of good. Way more. He did a lot of charity work, before, and giving back to the community, but he can do even more. With this opportunity, with this second chance that, he could be given, I think he can do way more. So, all right, y'all, let me stop.